Thank you very much, Chairman. One of the concerns that many of us had with respect to the activities of the Janjaweed when they were participating in ethnic cleansing, which they still are in Sudan, was the spillover effect that that would have in the region. And what we have seen are the same tactics of the Janjaweed. Indeed, probably 85%, 90% of this force is not indigenous to Central African Republic. It's coming in from Sudan. It's coming in from Chad. And these foreign fighters have learned a particular method of operation. And what we see them doing in towns across the Central African Republic is committing the same types of looting, of rapes, of torture as well here. By the way, they're in their focus on going after the Catholic Church, which is at this point is probably the only real institution functioning in the country, and functioning on the standpoint of not just the school systems that they deal with, but also in terms of the social welfare network. In targeting a country which is 85% Christian and 12% Muslim, the other danger here is that they're going to ignite, as you're discussing, the sectarian conflict. And just as this is expanded, you're going to have a continued arithmetic increase in the struggles between Christians, animists, Muslims, because as the bishop has explained, one of the consequences of this is if you're taking cattle that you've herded and you're turning it over later to a local Muslim cattle herder, then the tensions are going to be expanded to the ethnic tensions within that local community. And the real danger here is that, this is a country the size of Texas that is engulfed now, but we're seeing this MO, deployed across North Africa. And the reason we are supportive of action being taken is in order to try to arrest this. We met with Samantha Power, our new ambassador to the UN, had a meeting with her in the committee last week, and this was the foremost issue she wanted to talk about, which is indicative of how destructive this is going to be in terms of the African continent. I think the other aspect of this I'd like to ask you about, and I'll just expand this into our ongoing effort after 17 years or whatever it's been. We've finally had a pretty good operation going against Joseph Kony under legislation that we wrote. And that focus was on running Kony down, and he was in the southeast area of the Central African Republic. And all of that seemingly has been put on hold as we deal with the bigger disaster, allowing him theoretically to regroup, to resupply. Again, it's been problematic in the past that the Sudanese government has supplied him. I don't know that they would continue to do that, but their tolerance of the activities of the Janjaweed and their encouragement of it has helped put us in this crisis today. So just some observations on those 2 points, if you would, and thank our panelists again. And Chairman, I thank you and Karen Bass for your engagement in this. And by the way, Mr. Marino has been very involved as well, and I really think it's going to take members' engagement here in order to push up, the focus on the Central African Republic and on the need to get the support there, both in terms of what we do for relief, but also in terms of MISCA's efforts. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Royce, and thank you for all of the work that the entire committee has been doing to bring attention to this issue. On the first question of the influx of this movement and of Seleka inflaming wider religious tensions, it's certainly a trend that we've seen and one that we're very fearful of will continue to increase. The pattern in several places, including in Bangassou and Yaloke, we've seen that when Seleka units or Seleka groups felt under attack, that they sought to actively rally the local Muslim community to their cause. Many of these communities are ethnically Pul, many of them are not, from the same backgrounds of the Seleka forces, but we see them trying to forge these alliances or trying to establish a local support base, because many of them come from far afield. They're looking to establish roots in the country and reaching out and involving Muslim communities to do so, which is triggering the back and forth reprisal attacks that we've heard of and that Bishop Nongo illustrated so well. And so that's a worrying trend. It's one that may continue as the movement continues to fracture. We've seen fighting now between Seleka groups, and as this sort of mixed group divides and continues to try and set down roots, we see risks of further attempts to mobilize civilians. On the question of the fight against the LRA and Joseph Kony, it's true that up until this most recent violence, that there had been a lot of significant progress in reducing the operational space and encouraging defections, and that was set back by this instability. It seems as though efforts are ramping up, but it's true, it's true that there was a moment of pause in which the LRA was able to regroup, and we're quite afraid that as the dry season sets in, there's going to be increasing trade between the remote areas that are historically targeted. And so as traders move back and forth between these cities that haven't been resupplied, first because of the fighting, then because of the rainy season, as people have to start getting food, have to start getting supplies out to these remote areas, those are new targets and new opportunities for the LRA and other armed groups to prey upon.
Thank you. I again thank the panelists, and I'll yield back. I know Mr. Marino has been waiting, and I also want to thank him for allowing me to go out of sequence. But thank you, Mr. Chairman.